Hi, today we're going to talk about the Olmecs. The Olmecs we see pictured here are going to have those giant heads that we've been singing about in our songs. Anyways, the Olmec civilization is going to be in southwestern Mexico, into southwestern Guatemala, and even into a little bit of El Salvador. So the big question is, how did we eventually get people there? So there are two big theories. The most prominent I'm showing you right now is this idea that people that were Americans came from somewhere near the Gobi Desert, and they went northeast, eventually getting into Siberia. Now, during that time period, we believe sea levels were lower and that a land bridge existed and people walked from Siberia into Alaska today. And realizing that it was cold, people moved south and eventually wound up making it into Central America. Another theory is that people came from the South Pacific Islands and actually took boats over to the west coast of North America. So there has been some research in that. We don't know though. So hopefully we'll eventually figure out and have more ideas about the roots of people in the Americas. Now, there are going to be lots of different Native Americans that we're going to discuss in this unit. One of the things that we need to realize is that depending on where they lived, we're going to see some big differences in the people. Now, today we're focusing mostly in southern Mexico and northern Central America, and then we're going to be going to the Andes Mountains in Peru. Near the end of the unit, we are going to go look at North America briefly, which is going to have a huge diversity of different Native American groups. Now, the Olmecs are going to be the AKA mother culture of Mesoamerica. They're going to be the first big and dominant culture for the region. And we're talking about these people around 1200 BCE. Now, this area of the world, it is hot, it is humid, there are tons of jungles, rainforests, and swamps. Lots of rain, and sometimes that rain has flooding. They have lots of natural resources. Salt, tar, clay, rubber, and lots of stone. Probably figured that out from all the different stone heads that you've already seen. Now, one of the interesting things about the Olmec is they're actually not going to be in a river valley like many of the civilizations we've discussed. And three major cities, you don't have to write them down, but we have San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes. Now, even though the Olmecs did not live in a river valley, they were excellent farmers. They had enough rainfall and they cleared the land so that they're able to go grow lots of crops. Now, like I said, not a river valley, but that didn't mean there weren't rivers. So they typically had villages near rivers, and there's going to be a lot of fishing. And we're going to see lots of arts and crafts such as pottery making and weaving. One of the biggest influences that the Olmec are going to have is a game called Tok Tok, which we're going to spend a lot of time researching, especially when we get to the Maya. Think of it as a combination of basketball and soccer. You're not allowed to use your hands, and the objective is to get the rubber ball through the stone hoop that you see pictured in the top left. It's a pretty interesting game. Like I said, we're going to talk a lot about it in depth later on. We see these courts all over, and we're going to see them continue even long after the Olmec civilization is gone. So we can see that this was a very popular sport, something enjoyed by many people. There you see, you're going to use your hips, your elbows, not your hands. It's a rubber ball, but it was going to be a very hard rubber ball. We'll talk about it especially when the Maya are doing it, and then there's a human skull making it hollow in the inside. More on that later. All right, so we see that they're going to be builders. We're going to have pyramids built by the Olmec. We're going to have underground sewer systems. We're going to have Lots of those giant heads. 9 feet tall, 15 tons. We don't know why they built these heads. Some people assume that perhaps they're leaders, perhaps they're gods. We don't know. But many, many giant heads. Now, the Olmecs are going to have a huge important impact as well for the region. They are going to start writing. They're going to write in glyphs. So just like how we had hieroglyphics, glyphs, we have these pictures to represent ideas and words. We're also going to see that the Olmecs are going to be very good with astronomy. They're going to develop a calendar that's going to be very, very accurate, just observing the stars. Remember, they're doing this without telescopes or anything. They're just looking with their eyes. So we wonder why or how are they able to go and move these giant heads? So this is one historian's theory that they're going to go build giant rafts to be able to move these big heads. Because one of the interesting things about the Olmec is even though they're going to have excellent architectural skills, they're going to have excellent astronomy, but they aren't going to use the wheel. We have no evidence of the wheel being used by the Olmecs. So it leads to some questions. How are they going to go move these giant 15-ton heads? So it could be floating them in the river. It could be going and creating sleds and pushing them. We don't know. Now, it appears that the Olmec were pretty peaceful and that trade is going to be something that they're going to be highly involved with. Now, this trade is going to wind up spreading their culture and influencing it greatly. We see that there's going to be many goods and such wealth that they're able to focus on luxury goods. And as I said, the trade is going to spread the Olmec culture. Because not only are you trading your possessions, you're going to trade information. Things like writing, the astronomy, and the architectural knowledge is going to pass on to the different groups of people interacting with the Olmecs. Once again, just showing the huge amount of influence they're going to have in the region. As I said earlier, they are the mother civilization for this area of the world, and we're going to see why, because it's going to influence this whole area. Now, their religion, they're going to be polytheistic. Their main god is going to be the jaguar god, which we're going to see even more of with the Maya later on, and some with the Aztec. But they're going to have gods for everything: fire, crops, sun. Now, their gods are often going to have animal shapes. One of the interesting beliefs with the Olmec also is this idea that shamans would be able to turn into jaguars. And it's kind of interesting because with European mythology, we have the idea of the werewolf, whereas with the Olmecs, as opposed to a wolf, it was someone who could go to and from the form of a jaguar. And we believe that they built pyramids to go worship their gods. Now, Teotihuacan is going to be the last of the big Olmec sites. Now, the Olmec civilization is going to um, decline by 900 BCE. However, we're going to see Teotihuacan is going to go from 200 to 700 AD, long after the heyday of the Olmecs. We're going to have a giant city here with many, many pyramids, including one for the sun, one for the moon, and lots of buildings. We're going to see having a population of over 200,000 people is going to be pretty impressive for that time period. Teotihuacan is going to wind up going and being something that later groups such as the Aztecs and the Maya are going to see, admire, and then emulate. Now, the Olmecs, they're going to collapse. They're going to disappear. We don't know why, though we don't have any evidence that gives us a firm, concrete answer what happened to the Olmecs. So some people say that maybe they were invaded, maybe they went and ran out of crops with farming. It could be lots of different things. Now, we see these heads buried, some destroyed, so it could be that they built the heads to honor their current ruler, and then if something happened to that ruler, they would then get rid of the head. We don't know. It's one of those great mysteries, which Mesoamerica is going to have many mysteries that we're going to be looking at this unit. Have a great day.